Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by my co-hosts, Scott, hello.
Good day.
And David, hi.
Hi there, everyone.
And our special guest for this evening, because it's evening here in the UK where I am at the moment. And our special guest is Audrey Paterson. Audrey, you're going to be, we're all going to have a conversation about traditional medication is not the only route to treat dementia. Please share a little of how about yourself and why this particular topic.
Okay, so my name's Audrey Paterson. I'm from central Scotland, as you can hear from the accent. I call myself a health wealth coach. I've been an independent financial advisor for 37 years. My journey with health started when I was 30. I ended up with a thing called sarcoidosis, which was a really rare thing. The doctor luckily managed to diagnose me. From then I had an early menopause at 38. I had a 3-year-old, lost my mum at 14, lost myself. And I went off on a journey to find how I could help myself, first of all. And I tried everything. I tried, went down Patrick Holford, went down nutritionists. I just tried so many different routes to see how I could help myself rather than just take medication.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you a wee bit about, my journey as you ask questions, but that's where it all started. And it opened this part of the dementia part was the last piece. My dad was diagnosed with vascular dementia. He was put in medication. They said there was 4 they could try. They put him in the first one and unfortunately lost about 1.5 stones. And they said, we're going to put him in the second one. I said, no, you're not. I'm going to put him in 2 natural products. And I put my dad in 2 natural products. And my dad was discharged from the memory clinic. His memory improved by 3 points, and the memory clinic had never seen a memory improve before. So for me, it was then, let's see what I can learn. How can, more of Patrick Holford, I love Professor Tim Spector. I love all this thing, we are what we eat. So opened me to, let's see whatever else there are, what other things are there?
Oh, absolutely, and it's really important. And the title of the program, Traditional Medication. Now, I think what we all fail to remember that what we call traditional medication is modern medicine. Traditional medication is more the type of thing that we're actually talking about, which is the plants. That is, they are the traditions that we've let go, and so I had to get that in because I actually don't see modern medicine as being the traditional medication. I mean, I know that I'm just thinking about plants. Turmeric is meant to be really good. There's sort of aloe vera is known as the miracle plant, but there are so many that are sort of called superfoods because of the benefits they have. And it's so important. So, Audrey, I know that you deal with certain products, and I know aloe products are some of those. But there's one specific one, isn't there, that you said that has got something in it. So it's not the aloe ingredient. And then we'll come back to the guys, because I'm sure they've got stories of different things that support them too.
Yeah. So first of all, the aloe vera was one of the things. My dad had constant urinary tract infections, and when they were telling me he had dementia, I was sure he had a urine infection, and I wouldn't listen to what they were saying, So I put him on aloe vera, as you said, with berries and all the antioxidants, and my dad's urine infections cleared. He was really well with that. But the dementia part then started, you could see the issue going. And one of the things that Patrick Holford actually talked about that I thought was really interesting with dementia was B12. And B12 At the moment, actually, they put them in dementia medication and they reckon there's only a 2% result with dementia medication. And with a simple B12, there's actually a 30% result for helping with memory. So one of the products that I put my dad on was called L-arginine. And what the RG has, it's a lot of different things that we really need. So it's got vitamin C, it's got vitamin K2, vitamin B6, D3, B9, B12. Now, the B12 part is obviously one of the things that's so important. It releases anti-aging hormones, and it's nitric oxide. It speeds the oxygen to the brain. So I remember actually going to a seminar, Patrick Holford was there, and I remember chatting to him and saying, you know, I would like to put my dad on natural products. Are these covered under private medical cover? And he said, if you get a consultant who is open to treating naturally, yes, they are. Because under private medical cover, you've got holistic cover normally for about £1,000. So you can then choose, okay, I don't want to take the pill that you're giving me, and I'll put you in that. So I put my dad on the RG and also one of the aloe vera products with the berries. My dad's memory improved by 3 points and he was discharged from the memory clinic. And my dad passed away with a stroke and he died on the Friday, but I'd been out with my husband talking about short-term memory things.
Yeah.
Now, I've actually got someone else who contacted me and told me the same story. So, you know, it's not just, you know, because sometimes you think, well, maybe that's just my story, but it's not. It's actually a similar story with someone else that helped with her dad as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Sort of, Scott.
Yeah, I had not heard about B12 in memory because I'm just 67, but I find that I am having a much harder time recalling names, times, different things. My processor isn't working as fast, you know. It's like putting things in a safe place and then forgetting where that safe place is. You know, you can't retrieve it. So thank you for that. That is, I'm really going to look into the B12. But I wanted to relate to my mom.
So
go ahead.
Have a look at, sorry, I interrupted you there. Have a look at Patrick Holford. He talks a lot about it. He's the world's leading specialist on natural products. But he has a lot of interesting information on B12.
Interesting. Thank you. So my mom had early Alzheimer's. She had lost, I could tell she was losing the ability to process. She couldn't remember things. You would say, Mom, if you go through the door and take a left, she would go to the door and stand there and not be able to go beyond that because she couldn't process. And it got worse and worse and worse. And so being into natural medicine and really believing into it, Chinese herbs, I call her my pin doctor. I see. I lost my acupuncturist, and she tried that, and she tried going to other modalities because she wanted to be right. The amount of medication they had her on, I think it made it cloudier, and more distant than she had ever been. It was almost isolating in that case, and it never made it any better. And so there was a bit of clarity when she was doing these naturopathic things, and I have to say that, and I'm seeing this more and more here in the States, is that people are looking for the alternatives than just throwing a pill at it.
Yeah.
When somebody is on 4, 5, 7, 10 medications through the course of a day, that alters your body chemistry. The interactions with all those substances that aren't normally in your body just doesn't allow your body to function. For doctors,
absolutely.
It's always with medicine and with medication, it's always put the body in a position to be able for it to heal itself, period. You can't mask something for 15 years. by taking medication for 15 years, you have to get to the root cause. And I think that's what you're talking about, is really getting to where the problem truly is.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you said that, Scott, because when my dad was diagnosed, he was on a lot of medication that was in a blister pack, and my dad was really vigilant. You know, he'd watch and he'd say, they've given me a blue pill and I'm not taking that blue pill because that's a cheap pill. And I remember saying to the doctor, can you tell me who checks this medication for contraindications? And they said, well, it's all fed into the computer, and if any of them contraindicate, then it'll flag up. And I thought, do you know, really, that's only as good as somebody feeding information. There's nobody checking it. But one of the things, so my friend's husband has got dementia just now, and she's actually put him on the RG and he's actually doing well, but she's also working with Patrick Holford. And one of the things that she's actually finding is the keto diet is really helping with him. And that's one of the things that Patrick Holford actually advocates. You know, doing keto and taking sugar. Sugar has such a bad impact on our body. And so when they take the sugar out, they take the carbs out, and they look at doing the keto, it is actually really helping with his. And again, I've been doing a lot of things with, or, you know, listening to a lot of Stephen Bartlett and Professor Spector on Zoe. I don't know whether you've looked at the Zoe, but Zoe, actually, you attach it to your arm, and it tells you how your body reacts to whatever it is that you're going to take. Yeah. Now, it was trialled and there was a waiting list, but the waiting list is cleared again, so you can actually get it now. And they put you on a 12-month programme. You pay up front. They do a lot of blood tests. They see what you're intolerant to, what is actually, you know, how it's actually reacting. And then they put you in a 12-month programme to see. So say, for instance, you try a new granola, let's say, your body will tell you how it actually reacts to that.
That's so interesting.
Oh.
David.
Well, boy, there's a lot of information to take in. And I think I'll come back to the second bit that I would like to chat to you about and ask you about instead of all in one go. The first thing, when you were speaking about your dad, it reminded me very much of my mum. She got vascular dementia, and we hadn't heard of that. We heard of old age dementia and everything else, but not vascular dementia. And that's what she was diagnosed with shortly before she passed. And it's anybody who's going through this, it's like losing a bit of somebody every day, and it is so painful for everybody around, as people will know. And she was open to all this kind of complimentary if she could, but like you say, there was so many medications she was on. You know, it was like a conveyor belt in the morning for her. And it was really difficult to see and witness. And then she had a massive, she was in hospital, and she didn't recognize any of us as such, including me. And the next day she had a massive brain hemorrhage and she passed. So, but my dad at the time, my mum was 89. My dad lived till 92. But what he was getting was the B12 injections. And his memory was as sharp as absolutely anything, right till the final days of his life.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that B12 that they tested that he needed, and he had the injection, I think, once every 3 months, whether that was reducing the chance or the risk of him getting old age dementia or vascular dementia.
Yeah. So one of the things that Patrick Holford actually talked about was that when they reckon that diabetes is going to be type 3, I've lost my train of thought here. They reckon that dementia is going to be type 3 diabetes, which then makes you think, is it linked to sugar? And if we take the sugar out, does it make this difference that we're really looking for? So, and this is why I am so passionate about that one thing, because the man who actually did the research for this actually got the Nobel Prize. But again, it seems all to be, because you said, Scott, and David, you said too, vascular. So it's obviously about the oxygen to the brain, and that's the biggest thing for me with this. My husband took 2 heart attacks, both on New Year's Day. One in between he didn't have, and then he had another one. And I had actually, you know, it's like when you speak to the doctor and they actually don't really know everything, so they'll maybe say, don't do that. So we said to him, can I keep him on these products? And they said, well, we're not really sure, you know, he's on this and this. And I thought, right, okay, I'm not taking the risk, because my husband's got 2 children. And I'm thinking, you know, I've got 2 stepkids, and I'm going to take this responsibility. But we spoke to the doctor who deals with the RJ, and they said, get your husband back on it. And I put my husband back on it. And if you see in 3 months the difference to my husband, and it was the vascular part. He was actually the colour of death. It's funny because I didn't actually realise this, you know, when you're looking at someone and you're too close, and I didn't see it. And somebody recently said to me, your husband was the colour of death. And my husband just now is working, and he's 75. But when you go to a doctor, all they'll do, and this, I heard you say this, Scott, you know, it's like they'll just put an elastoplast over it. I actually heard a nurse recently saying, oh, you've got heartburn. Well, I'll just give you a little omeprazole, and then you'll be able to eat whatever you want. And you just think, really? All you're actually doing is putting an elastoplast over that and saying, just do whatever you want. And I see this more and more with, you know, how things are going. We're not actually getting to the root of, why is that happening?
Yeah.
I'd like to add to the root of the why is it happening here, because it's Scott and myself are going to be involved in a book and that will be coming out later this year, and it's elder wisdom. And the thought that came to me was, how often do we, and I put all of us in that elder bracket, to be perfectly honest, but the thought that came to me was, did I ever actually ask my grandparents to tell me stories about their life? When did we stop doing that? Was it just the First and Second World War, where so many men and women were so traumatized by things they witnessed, experienced, that they could not talk about it? Or did it start before there with something like the Industrial Revolution, where the people came out of the countryside and into the cities, and their life changed so much that there wasn't that time to sit with the elders and listen to the stories and learn from them? So did we stop using our storytelling, our sharing of our wisdom and our knowledge? Has that actually helped us to lose that ability to be able to do that? And you're absolutely, I'm listening to what you're saying about diet, because the First and Second World War, think how when white sugar, gold, the white gold, is that what they called it? Because they could make so much money out of it. I've spent a little bit of time with the Nez Perce Indians in the USA, in Idaho, and so many Native Americans have got diabetes because sugar was introduced to them by the white man. They did not have cane sugar in their diet prior to white man. And so it's thinking about all these things. Can we look back at history, at where our diet was, where our conversations were, how much our brains were being used for different things, and how much knowledge was shared in families down the generations? And we lost it. Can we get it back? Can we support ourselves? Oxygen, getting out for walks. I mean, I just think about cancer, and I know we're not talking about cancer, but can it not be the same for other conditions? You've got cancer, and I just think about, you go to the doctor, you're diagnosed, oh, you go out and you here, have a nice sweet cup of tea and have a biscuit laden with refined sugar. You know, talk about, and cancer feeds on sugar. Oh, no, you better stay indoors. Get out, get your vitamin D, get your oxygen.
Yeah.
Cancer hates an oxygenated environment in your body. It hates an alkaline environment in your body. And it's not going to just be cancer that hates those things.
Yeah.
It can be other conditions. So if we go out and we just don't overdo the sunshine. We get the fresh air. We take, as you were saying, we start thinking about what we are eating and what we are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so,
the podcast actually, the most listened. Sorry,
carry on.
Sorry, the most listened to podcast of last year. The biggest topic was sleep. And I think that's one that we underrate completely, because our body heals. We know that. You know, our mum would tell us, you know, you need to rest, you need to sleep. And sleep is so important. Yeah. But I think you're right when you're talking about the war and things like that, you know, and I think we've made this fast life and we've made this stress, and everybody wants more. You know, they want more, and they're putting themselves under so much stress and so much pressure. And all of these things have got to impact on how we actually live, how we actually eat. Do they eat? You know, the kids, I think we're actually storing major problems, because I watch how the kids are eating nowadays, and it is really bad. Where's this dementia thing going to go? If they're saying that, you know, dementia's type 3 diabetes, where are we going to go with this? Unless we educate kids. And the good thing is my son's 25 and he's now listening to Stephen Bartlett and Professor Spector, and I mean, one I've just come across, and it's on intermittent fasting, because a lot of people are talking about the intermittent fasting, how it heals your body. And actually, here's the statistics, Sarah. 64% of breast cancer sufferers have actually recovered by using intermittent fasting. So Dr. Mindy Phelps.
Yeah. Intermittent fasting is something that when I heard about it, and it was just like, go 12, 14 hours without eating anything. If you can go 16. And I'm thinking, but I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Because I like to have my tea relatively early, and my tea isn't my main meal anymore. My main meal is at lunchtime. So it's just something little in the evening, mostly fruit and sort of something like that, you know, but it's just like, and then so usually finished by 6 and don't eat breakfast till about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, I'm doing 12 to 14 hours without even thinking about it.
Exactly, and that's probably why you're healthy. So there's a book that Dr. Mindy Peltz has actually written. It's really fascinating. I'm just reading it just now, but it's really fascinating. It's called Fast Like a Girl. And the reason I looked at it, I've got an underactive thyroid, and this is another issue. The UK don't deal with T3. So I'm down a rabbit hole finding out about information about this, because it's just something that's not tested. So when they tell you you're normal for what they test you for, but not what they don't test you for. And that was why I bought her book, because it was on intermittent fasting relating to the thyroid. And it's fascinating, but it goes back to what you say, you know, in the war, there was rations, they didn't have sugar readily available the way that we've got it now, and all the snacks and rubbish and junk and pizzas and all these things that kids are just so readily eating.
Yeah. Scott, let's come back to you.
I work in the local school system, and I walk through lunch, and I'm kidding with the cafeteria workers, because I'm saying, you guys put out the best bar food there is. They have chicken fingers, they have pizza, they do, you know, what we used to get, you didn't really have a choice, you know, it's they used to say crap on a shingle, gravy and beef chips, chip beef on gravy over toast. But there was something different all the time. These kids can eat basically bar food for lunch every single day, and that's what they're consuming. And the whole point is, well, if we don't give them what they want, they won't eat the food. But the food that they're being given is pure, unadulterated sugar, constant,
absolutely,
chocolate milk, just latent, just loaded with it. And my grandkids are very, very active athletically, but when they're not doing athletics, they don't do anything. They sit. They are on their phone. And that's the part that really bothers me, is how many kids are going to end up having problems with diabetes, with all of that. Anyone who, as we all know, as you get older, it's much, much harder to get more fit. If you are not fit when you were younger, it's very hard when you're an adult. So what the basis for this, for them is, and I worry about it, is that and the entire culture is based around it. I went to India last April, and it was, they view, and we went up into the Himalayas, and food for them is medicine, period. It's they don't have have very little refrigeration. Everything is fresh. Whatever is in season is what they eat. They cook each and every meal. I had one small little piece of chicken in 17 days. Everything else was vegetarian. And I ate more than I ever have in my life. And I lost weight. So they view food so much differently. Yeah, it's not prepackaged. Everything is fresh. Everything is done. It's the way I grew up. We never ate out. I had my first McDonald's hamburger when I was 13 years old. My grandkids had their first McDonald's meal when they were 3 months. It just is an entirely different lifestyle. And I don't know that it's better. I truly don't know it's better.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. But I think, they see the stress thing, Scott, that we talked about, the stress in the busy life, and everybody wants a bigger house and a bigger car and a bigger holiday and a bigger everything else. So it's pressure, money, pressure. I see it with people. Have you put enough away for your pension? No. But they can afford to go out and they'll spend £100 on a meal. They have different priorities. And then we've got this society that want it now. So I remember you're talking about McDonald's. I remember going 40 years ago to Canada, and my dad going through the drive-through, and my dad saying, I can't believe he didn't get out the car to actually get something in a shop. And I was just saying to my husband the other day, I says, now they don't even get out of their bed to do that. It's Just Eat.
Yeah.
The phone's Just Eat, and people actually deliver it to their bed, but it's not good what gets delivered, because it'll be McDonald's, it'll be Starbucks, it'll be Chinese, it'll be pizza, it'll be whatever, because there's very, very little, even in the restaurant. I mean, we would have tried it. I owned a restaurant as well. We would have tried it in the restaurant to be healthy, but unfortunately it didn't work, because the minority that wanted that, so we had to just basically throw it out. So you had to go with the majority, like you said, in the school.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing how things have turned so very, very quickly in that respect. We never knew it was to go out. It was always, what you had to eat at home, what you prepared. And one of the biggest things here is pre-made meals that are shipped to you. And all you do is you put them in the oven, or they have an oven that comes with the program. You scan it and it cooks it exactly the way. You don't even really do anything except throw it in. Now, while that's better and you're eating kind of better, it's absurd the cost when you cost it out. I could for $20 I can feed a family of 5, for a meal. You go out, that's $200. no matter what you do.
It goes to the convenience part, doesn't it? It's, well, we can't actually spend an hour and a half in the kitchen. We'll just phone Just Eat. It'll be here in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, So, but this, I think there's got to be a major shift for us not to have an issue. And obviously we've got pressures with the NHS just now. How is this going to impact the NHS in years to come if this puts more pressure on with these kids with diabetes? Obesity is huge. All chronic illnesses that are caused by it. Where is all this going to go?
Exactly. David.
This is so fascinating. This is really interesting. Can I take you back to that program you were on about, Audrey, called Zoe? Is it called Zoe?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating because about a year ago, my body went through some sort of change, and most foods were having an adverse reaction to me. And I went to get a blood test. I know the lady, she was absolutely wonderful. And it was an allergy. And it turned out that my body has an intolerance to all dairy products, wheat, soya, nuts. And I don't have anaphylactic shocks or anything like that, but it's been having an adverse effect on me, and it looks like it's been building up over about 5-10 years. So I started taking all this out, and I was told that after a period of so many months, you can start introducing things back and see how they affect you. But this Zoe thing would be fascinating to see how that if I introduce back those intolerances, to see what my body was doing and say whether it's still doing okay, but it's having a very subtle adverse effect and not having a major. Is it going to build up again for me? And although I'm really strict with my diet because I know now how well it's been, and I bring in a lot more salads and greens into my daily diet, although it was never unhealthy, but it was unhealthy because I think there was a lot going into my body that had been not pure in its growth or anything along the way, and been messed about with and all sort of things. So that program, I would love to know more about it, because I think it would be fascinating for me to experience and see what's going on, and if I can reintroduce things, or if they're having a subtle effect. And I think that would be beneficial for so many people as well.
Oh, for sure. So that actually was me, because when I went menopausal, I don't know how it acts with a man. I suppose it's the same thing. But when I went menopausal, I went through the nutritionist, as I said, and what she said was, you basically abused wheat, dairy and coffee. It came up intolerant wheat, dairy and coffee. And they said, eliminate it for 4 months and then introduce it. Now, this was over 20 years ago, and it was really difficult to get wheat-free, dairy-free, all these things. It was really difficult at the time. I remember we bought these Dove's Farm bread, and we tried to, and honestly, it was £10 for 2 loaves, and you could actually bounce it off the ground. They were disgusting. They're a whole lot better now, move forward. They're a whole lot better, and all the supermarkets have got great ranges that have, gluten-free, and they're great for obviously anybody that's got an issue. But what Zoe, so there was a restriction with it. There's two high, sort of high profile ones. Stephen Bartlett is actually, he's behind it as well. It's Professor Tim Spector, but Stephen Bartlett is behind it, and also Davina McCall, she is doing part of it. But 2 of my colleagues, so I've just actually signed up again. There was a waiting list, but it's back out again, and there is availability now. But 2 of my colleagues have been on it, and they're doing really, really well with it. And she was just showing me the programme the other day, how it actually works. Now, there is something in England at the moment where my friend's got diabetes, he's got type 1, and he signed up for something similar on prescription. The doctor actually gave it because he was really bad type 1 diabetic. And what this does is very similar to the Zoe. So you attach it to your body, but they do all the tests first of all and tell you how, it's like a blood panel. They tell you how it all reacts first of all, and then you're monitored over 12 months. And again, so my cousin, actually, I was out with her and she was showing me, and hers, she really has bad gut health. And that's one of the things that majorly helps with aloe vera, because it's inflammation. It causes obviously all the problems with, gut and so on. And she was just showing me how this was all impacting her. She was thinking she was being really healthy, but because this was, she can actually see how this was impacting her, even although she thought she was being really healthy.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm thinking. I think
it's really
something I would really be interested in looking into.
Yeah, well, look it up. It's just called Zoe, and it's on Google. And there is availability just now because, as I said, I've just signed up for it, but there was a waiting list. Because obviously they've got to manufacture, I suppose, get the processes in place. But if you go onto YouTube, there's some really, really interesting things. And the podcast that Tim Spector and Stephen Bartlett did, they're so interesting. They're bringing all these top specialists in, like Barbara O'Neill, Mindy Peltz, all these ones who have done lots of information on alternatives.
That's really interesting. I think that'll help a lot of people listening.
I think what you also have to realise with, you mentioned soy and you mentioned wheat, and so much of our wheat today is genetically modified. And my mother is certainly intolerant. My youngest sister is celiac, full blown. So she can't have anything wheat. But my mother found when she was going to somewhere like Greece that actually she could cope with some because it wasn't genetically modified. But most of the stuff we've got here in the UK is just that. The wheat is genetically modified. What soya, the majority of soya today is genetically modified. And yes, you can get organic. And I know I can't. I like to douse. I will either ask my body, and I can body douse, or I'll get my dowsing pendulum out. And it's just like, and I thought, I can have an alternative to the meat. You can get sort of what looks like minced meat, but it's actually soya. And I was wondering why I was feeling actually so strange after eating it. And it was just like,
possibly the estrogen.
And it was, it's do not touch this, because the majority of it, it might be fine if I was eating soya that wasn't genetically modified, but because so much of it is today, and so can we get hold of as much organic as possible? I'm one of these people. I go and buy a whole load of fruit, veg, whatever. I cook up a big pot and I freeze it in portions. So and it costs me, I could not afford to go out and buy these ready-made meals on a daily basis. Yeah. It would cost me a small fortune. What would cost me for a week would feed me for a month. I think people that say, I can't afford to eat fresh. Yes, you can. I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually got a brochure in today because we actually moved to this house and it was an old man who owned it, and it came in for him, and it was Wiltshire Farms. Now, I actually got them for my dad just to be handy and in a freezer, and they're disgusting.
Yeah.
It didn't agree with them. It had onions. If you don't like onions, all of this, but our local butcher is now doing homemade, ready-made meals for people, and not actually that expensive. So they can go and get minced potatoes with veg. They can go and get a chicken dinner with fresh veg, not tinned or, and if we could just go back to that. I mean, I do understand, if it's a man on his own, like my dad had lost my mum and he'd never cooked in his life, so for him to go and make something, it was a different thing. But for the butcher to do it, it's actually really good. So, you know, if there was more things like this available that was fresh. I actually remember a lady saying to me, I got a loaf of bread and can you believe it's actually fresh for a month? And I'm thinking, it's fresh for a month? Why would you want a loaf that can actually be used for a month? My son won't actually use anything if the sell-by date's today. And they, you know, they're saying, oh yeah, you can use it for a month. And I'm thinking, what is added to that bread?
Yeah.
All of these things are the things that cause, or I think, you know, make the dementia worse. Like when I'm saying going back to keto, the keto diet is, let's just think fresh, you know, eat the rainbow. You know, when you're talking about phytonutrients, eat your phytonutrients, be it as, you know, like fruit, veg and salads, as put as many purple things in as you can. And that's one other thing that's actually in that RJ. It's got pomegranate. It's got all the purple things, and the purple things are what really helps with the memory and the eyes.
All right. So when you're saying purple things, what is that?
Pomegranates, blueberries, you know, when you're looking at fruit it's high in phytonutrients, and those things are actually really good for your eyes, but they're also really good for your memory.
Okay, so purple cabbage.
Yeah, so, you know, all of these things, yeah. And that's why they'll say eat the rainbow. If you can, you know, eat with your eyes anyway, but if you're eating a salad and you make it as bright as you possibly can, and going back to the beginning and making it a fresh salad. And I think that's one of the things, Sarah, when you said there, you know, actually walking out and going to shop, and I think this is where the world is too fast. Walking out, going to the grocers, going to the butchers, buying your things, coming in, making it. And now it's, well, we can keep our loaf for a month.
I've actually heard it said that, and they're starting to do this in some of the supermarkets. It's sort of like, if you've got any bread left over, stick it in the freezer. And it really does. And they've said that actually, if you put the bread into the freezer, then take it out and toast it, it takes something out of the bread that isn't so good for you, that actually makes it healthier to eat. So if I buy bread, it goes in the freezer, I separate all the slices so that I can take them one slice at a time, and it goes straight in the toaster, because that's the only bread I ever usually have is a slice of toast with a boiled egg in the morning. That's my breakfast, if you like, with half a grapefruit, and it has to be a red grapefruit, not an ordinary grapefruit, because again, it's that, and dates are meant to be really good for you. I can't remember what part of your body it is, but you know, sort of, it's thinking about.
Oh, the dates are for memory. Yeah,
are they? So they would be really good.
You know, people.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, people say I don't like that, but there is a way that they could get it. You know, they could put some either granola seeds, even peanut butter, and then put dates and figs and make it into you know, like a breakfast bar. Even if they don't like it, it will help.
Oh, seriously, I'm one of these people. I'm really not good with veg. I'm really not good with veg. But from going back as a kid, so they've now bought this thing. Oh, you've got to have bone broth. Bone broth is really good for you. Cook up the carcass of the chicken. I was having that as a tiny tot. That's what my mother always did. Yeah. It wasn't called bone broth. It was just a plain chicken soup. But the other thing she would then do was take certain veg. And I will not touch celery. I can't stand the smell of it. I can't stand the taste of it. And celery is meant to be really, really good for you. But it's something, don't bring it anywhere near me. But celery, parsnip, and leeks, carrot, onion, and potato. And obviously you could put whatever. But what she would do was then liquidize it. Because it's all liquidized in together, I couldn't taste the celery, so I was eating vegetables that I would never normally eat. So there are ways of doing these things. And so when you think about it, if you've used the bone broth as your basis, your chicken carcass, the the stock from that as your basis. You then put all that vegetable in it with the potatoes as well. You liquidize it all up so that fussy fannies like me sort of really don't know what's in there. You've got a meal in that soup.
Yeah.
And
this is one of the things that I think, going back to schools, we're going back to schools again. And I think this is something that has to be educated in schools. And I know it's going to be different for kids. You know, some kids are not wanting to learn, but some parents don't know how to cook. Now, one of the things, so as a financial advisor, right, and I'm always in touch with the money kind of thing, and I'll be looking for a discount. So I'm over 60. We get 10% off in the food warehouse on a Tuesday. So I'll go in and I'll buy lots of veg, lots of fruit, frozen, and I make smoothies with that, and I'll freeze them, and I make and my son will say, "What kind of soup is it today?" And I'll just say, "Good for you, just good for you." It doesn't matter what it is, you know, it'll just be every kind of frozen. And the funny thing is, on this Dr. Mindy the other day, when I was reading it, it was talking about bone broth. And I said to my husband, "What is bone broth?" And he had to actually Google it. Now, I mean, he was a commie chef, so it wasn't called bone broth. And he's thinking, bone broth? I mean, it's just going back to get a carcass, let's make a huge pot of soup.
Yeah.
Let's just try and take some time out, put it in the freezer, that we've always got something ready, instead of going to Just Eat to order a delivery.
Yeah.
But if they don't know how to cook, it's a different thing. And this is where I think it should be in schools. You know, especially if parents don't know how to do it. If we can show kids from an early age and not make it too expensive, then they may actually go down that route instead of going, let's just have pizza at £5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's come back to you, Scott.
So my grandmother was always, especially when I was a young parent, my grandmother always had these home remedies that were always so very good. So for croup, you know, the baby had a croup cough, and it sounded like a little seal. She'd say, "Okay, so you cut an onion in half and you put it in a sock and you put it near them, and darn if it doesn't work, of course, right? And the ammonia goes in and it helps." And there were always those kind of things that my grandmother, she'd cut a potato and put it on on your finger, a fresh potato, and put it on your finger. You'd wet it, and it would help heal it. I don't know how, but they just knew. This was just the old wives' tales. You know, you brought it through. One I hated when I was a teenager. Terrible, terrible acne. Yes. So cornmeal in a glass, covered overnight, and in the morning I would have to drink that whole thing down, all 16 ounces. Not fun. But it did help. And I don't know why. I actually just don't know why my mother made me do it. But it's all of that kind of knowledge. We go back to elder wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that knowledge that isn't passed down anymore.
Yeah.
All that knowledge of, oh, this works. They used to have a drawing salve, the tar black drawing salve. When you got an infection, like in a cut on your finger to get affected, you'd put the drawing salve, and this black, you put a Band-Aid on it, 2 days later, infection's gone and you're healed. It's just those things aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
Well, aloe vera, and that's again why I'm passionate about aloe vera, is known as a miracle plant. And I love to see how does this work. You know, so I'd hurt my leg. I'd get a bruise because I've red hair and I've got thin skin, and I got a really bad bruise. And I test it. You know, I'll do one leg with an injury and see how it goes with aloe vera. And then I'll try it with something else. And it disperses in the most unusual way. But it's going back to, there are books, Scott. I mean, it's the old home remedy books. And it's interesting. I was speaking to my friend the other day and I said, "So how did you get a doctor when you didn't have a phone?" You know, going back to, we didn't have phones. And she says, "Well, there was maybe always someone in the street you could actually go and they would, you know, make a phone call for you. Or there might have been a phone box where you could have gone." So they had to rely on home remedies because they didn't readily get to a doctor. I know it's difficult to get a doctor's appointment just now, but I think that's why people are more open at the moment, because they're thinking, well, really, we are actually having to try and find information. because it's not readily available at the moment.
One last thing I was thinking of is I found a 1910 home remedy book, and so I'll pull that out every once in a while, and it's just absolutely amazing because they had to use everything that was readily available.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't just go down to the supermarket. You could, things weren't available, so you had to make do with what you had, and life was much, much simpler. But there was an understanding of it also.
Yeah, absolutely. And turmeric, one of the things for inflammation, obviously a lot of the stress and cortisol and inflammation, things like turmeric, curcumin, they reduce the inflammation. So people are thinking, oh, I just need to take ibuprofen. Well, just actually put a plaster over it. Where you can take a natural anti-inflammatory, where you can reduce the inflammation, even add all these things to your curries.
Yeah.
All of these plant medicine, it's back to let's try plant medicine instead of let's just find something that has been brought out of something that's been designed to help us with a headache, and all these different brands of headache pills as well.
Yeah. David.
We could go. I know we could go on forever. I could at the moment, but I know I'm very aware of our time. But a couple of things I want to come back to as well. Yeah, I think you touched on it, Sarah, that sugar is such a food for cancer and a lot of illnesses. And my friend had breast cancer, and luckily now it's all cleared. She's done so much natural work with herself. It's really disappeared out of her system. But when she was going for treatments and linking into the cancer support system, this wasn't in this country, may I add, they were raising funds for cancer where you could put €1 in and you get a bar of chocolate and it's full of sugar. And this is how they were raising funds for treatment for cancer, and they're giving you a chocolate bar full of sugar, which the cancer is feeding off. And you think, what is going on? Is nobody aware, or whatever was going on? It was just really, really incredible. And I think we've got to watch out. And we're coming back. There is a medicine from the natural world for everything that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the aspirin, and you don't need me to tell you, it's like the aspirin is a synthesized form of the willow tree, because the willow tree was for so much medication for us, for pain and keeping our blood healthy and everything else. And now we have the aspirin, but that's a synthesized form of medication. So there is nothing new in our, although I have to say, there is a place for some support medication, because I know I'm on that through my heart attacks and asthma and things. And I'm sure if I looked into it more, there could be a lot more that could support my body naturally. But I have a place for that medication at the moment. But going back to the aloe vera and so many other things, there is so much natural support out there that we all used to rely on. We didn't have an internet when I was a kid to say, I better check up to see what I want or anything like that. We really relied on Granny's remedies.
I think
much it supported us.
I think that might be the issue, in that we've got Dr. Google and everybody wants to try and prescribe. But going back to one of the things that you said, Scott, about your mum with all the different medications, I actually think that is a huge, huge issue, because all of these things are contraindicating. And I don't believe what they said to me, that they put it into a system and it flags up red. So if you're taking something, the pill, I know my mum had rheumatoid arthritis, and this is how I found aloe vera. You Google it, it says drink aloe vera, and I got her, it was for inflammation. But she was put on sulfasalazine and reacted worse to the medication than the actual illness was.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few minutes left, very few minutes left. So thank you so much, Audrey. Anything finally that you would like to add? I'll put your website up here, and that's www.healthcraftherbs.com, isn't it? That's right.
No, not mine. No.
Oh, where did that come from then?
That's Gillian's.
That's Gillian.
Oh, is it? Well, how come I did that? I do apologise. So stop that, folks. What's your website called?
Audrey Paterson.flp.com. I've got a few, but that one, that will get to me so that I can answer because it's very, very specific to what somebody is looking for. Or if they find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and let me just chat to them, Sarah, because it's a minefield, and I've got a lot of information, and there's information that I can help them with. So
what was that? I think I must find that on the other sheet of mine. I don't know how I got that one. Oh, come on, computer.
If they'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay.
Audrey Paterson, just one T.
Yeah. Okay. So but I want to be able to put links to, obviously, sort of to all of us underneath the video. So anything finally that you would like to add before we actually close down?
The only thing that I would like to add is that we need to go back to the very beginning, and where we get up in the morning, went out and get fresh things and actually heal our body, and naturally. Yeah.
Thank you. Scott, any final words?
I wanted to say thank you very much, Audrey. Not all of this gets out. More of it has to be out in front of people so that they're much more aware. Convenience may be convenient, but as you get older, it becomes very inconvenient. And we're slowly poisoning our bodies in that way. And I'm 67 now. I plan on working with Reiki and healing modalities till I'm 100. And then after that, I figure it's a bonus. So I want to be as healthy as I possibly can all the way through. And I thank you for bringing that forward.
And David.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. I'm going to connect to you on Facebook and share your work and stuff. Okay, because I'm on Facebook as well. But just thank you for all the info you've brought through, and especially about the information on Zoe, on aloe vera and everything else. It's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much.
So I've actually opened a group which is called It's All About You, and I think that this is the most important thing. We have to put our oxygen masks on. Mental health, suicide is one every 2 seconds. We have to look after ourselves, and that's why I opened this group. And it's called It's All About You, and this is where I share. Sarah was on and I interviewed her, sharing information that other people can find, because Google is great, but there's a lot of Google.
So thank you so much to each and every one. So it was a fascinating conversation, which I hope has brought a lot of information out to people and helped them to think, right, let's go and research. And Patrick Holford, absolutely heard of him, because I know my friend Trevor, I think, has got books of his. So that's a name definitely known to me. So thank you to each of you. Next week, I'm joined by Steph and Sheila, and they are going to be sharing Be Bold, Be Beautiful, Be You, the power of connection. And that's exactly what we've done today, that power of connection across the pond. So thank you to each of you. I hope you'll think about joining us next week as well. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, each and every one. Light, love, and peace. Sweet souls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.